Good afternoon and welcome to another broadcast edition of CATA's TechNOW television. I'm your host, Kevin Wennekes, the Chief Business Officer, and you're joining us on our Public Safety channel. And today I'm very pleased to have two special guests with us discussing the topic of unmanned aerial vehicles, an area that certainly in the context of public safety is exploding with stories every day. And I'm joined today with the Chairman of Unmanned Systems Canada, Stewart Baillie, and Steve Palmer, Executive Director of the Collaborative Centre for Justice and Safety in Canada. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us. I'll jump right into it. As I alluded to, every day we're hearing more and more in the news about unmanned aerial vehicles, whether you call them drones or whether you have images of the backyard enthusiast flying over his neighborhood. You can't seem to get away with it. YouTube videos everywhere showing images from drones. So clearly there is a great interest and we think a strong opportunity in bringing together the stakeholders. And Stewart, why don't I turn to you first, given this is definitely your area, your bailiwick, and why don't we start with an introduction and what your organization does.
Sure. Thanks, Kevin, for setting all of this up. I look forward to the discussion to follow. Unmanned Systems Canada is an organization, not-for-profit, set up to understand and develop the technologies around unmanned vehicle systems, both ground, sea, and, of course, air. In this context of today's discussion, we're talking about those air vehicles, the ones that Kevin was saying are just about everywhere. Tremendous capability associated with these pieces of technology. Just like your cell phone, their capability is absolutely outstanding for a whole variety of things. And that's what we're really focused on Unmanned Systems Canada, is trying to figure out a way to get that opportunity, get that value added out of these systems and make them commercially and publicly available and valuable. Our organization, based basically in Ottawa, although we're stretched all across Canada and around the globe, we have about 500 members, and our focus is doing things like this upcoming workshop to help promote the technologies and get the best value out of them.
With respect to the workshop, as you mentioned, there are many different types of unmanned vehicles. We're focusing on air in this particular instance. There are so many different perceptions on the strengths and weaknesses of the devices that are in question. What are we be reviewing together at the workshop? Why is the workshop so important now?
Well, it's a really good time for an event like this. The technology is growing. There are some people out there who are using these systems to great advantage. Well, there's a whole other community that really doesn't quite understand either the technology or the capability. So a focus of this workshop is to develop the understanding of what that technology can provide. So we bring together the guys who have practical experience with the guys who are boots on the ground, working the problem day to day, and get them talking about how this technology can help them. So it's a really good time for that discussion to start right now.
And I hear often discussions around issues relating to policy in terms of their use, when they should be allowed, how should they be regulated, if at all. What should we be expecting to hear discussed in that context?
Well, we do plan on trying to get the whole group together to address and consider the various barriers that are in place right now for using this technology, what the current state of regulation is, and they are in fact regulated. For those of interest, the Transport Canada website has a lot of information on the regulation. I urge people to check it out before you go fly. Our final goal, though, is kind of central to the whole idea, which is pull all of these people together and develop the first draft of some kind of strategy for public safety and emergency management organizations so that they have a bit of a roadmap, a starting position on how to explore and adopt these technologies and understand which questions to ask, who to contact, and how to start building the capability that these technologies provide.
And of course, the focus, as you said, is going to be initially on the public safety community, but maybe paint a little picture for us outside of that. And Steve, I'll come to you for a moment maybe to describe how they're being looked at within the public safety community. But Stewart, how else can these be used in an application beyond public safety? What are the commercial interests? You mentioned it's regulated, so I as an individual likely shouldn't just go buy one and start flying it. But what are some of the practical applications that could be applied for these?
Great question, Kevin, and I'm always hesitant to answer it because every time I do a list, there are more technologies and more applications that I'm not aware of. But just to name a few, agriculture is a really big one, so that the farmer can get a bird's eye view of his field and understand how to best manage the crop that is growing and how to apply various pesticides, fertilizers, etc. Another one is any sort of aerial inspection, be it of the underside of bridges or the top of smokestacks. I've heard it used for commercial inspection of roofs before the roofers go up there with the shingles to replace a roof. All those sorts of applications, any sort of inspection. Another area is, of course, the real estate market. A lot of hype has been going on about getting that fancy from the air perspective of the property being sold. The media is definitely all over this technology, as well as the film industry. In fact, a lot of the very cool commercials you see on TV these days have a drone or an unmanned aircraft associated with the filming. So those are just a few. From a police perspective, a lot of the work in forensically documenting crime scenes so that that highway can be opened up quicker back to the public and the travel and the commerce that the highway represents. But like I said, for every application that I can think of, there's probably 3 or 4 more circulating out there. Delivering medicine via unmanned aircraft is another key one that people are just starting to work on now. But I hope that gives you a rough idea of some of the applications.
Oh, an excellent idea, and some new ones I hadn't even thought of. Steve, thank you for waiting so patiently. The University of Regina is hosting this workshop, and it's taking place again June 9 to 11th. And of course, as the executive director of the Collaborative Center for Justice and Safety, clearly there's an interest in this area as well. Could you speak a little bit more about the public safety impacts that these unmanned aerial vehicle systems can have, and how, perhaps if not already being used, some of the ways the public safety community is looking to use these?
Thanks, Kevin, and we're very interested in hosting this event here in Regina. June's going to be an excellent month to be out here. They're using UAVs or UAS vehicles quite a bit in Saskatchewan right now, and quite a bit in policing and emergency management throughout the country. So to sharing some of those applications. Stewart mentioned accident investigation, forensics at scenes. People may not be aware of the use that they make of these for search and rescue. As a matter of fact, the first situation where they actually found somebody and rescued that individual, that small UAV is now in the Smithsonian Museum. And so that's sort of recognition of the importance of the devices. And we're starting to look at how they might be used more in emergency management. We know the fire services have used them in flying over fire scenes because they can detect hotspots which might cause flashovers on and trap firefighters. So we're looking at all of those in some of the work that we'll be doing here and sharing.
And you're also helping manage what we're looking at calling the Tech Demo Day. That's going to be a separate day apart from the actual workshops. Can you explain a little bit about what we're aiming to provide on that special day?
What we want to do on that demo day is actually show the capability of the units. So we're developing live scenarios right now where we'll be able to stream information from various scenes back to a simulated control room, so people will get to see how these airships can actually be used, or systems can be used in events and activities to support the responders on the ground, to support decision making. And that's those are again going to feed into the second and third day of the workshop, so that we can build those into the strategies as we go forward. So we're going to be looking at real events, potentially in multiple locations, sharing the information back and forth, and feeding it into a control room, all based on various unmanned air systems.
Excellent. I'm looking forward to this. Stewart, for those wondering, should I be participating? Who would you say should be at this event?
Well, it's we're looking for a broad audience, participants. If you're in the emergency response or the public safety community, I'm definitely positive there will be some information available for you that will be valuable. That being said, the people who manage wildland fires is another area. Those regulators, government officials, anyone in the academic community who has an involvement in unmanned aircraft and is particularly looking to the emergency response or the public safety sector would be a great individual to have at the workshop. And finally, any industry representative, if you've got a technology that needs to be considered as part of this community, part of this solution, we really urge you to think about coming and bringing your hardware and being involved in the overall organization. From what I understand, there are some sponsorship opportunities and exhibition opportunities as well. So you can really use this as a stage to promote your own technology, your own capability to an audience of people who are just trying to absorb and understand what the technology might provide for them.
Well, I understand we're quite in the early days of the planning of the event. We only launched the registration portal last week, which I understand is on your website, and I'll be sure to add the website link here to our discussion. But as we move forward, what I'd like to do is ask if you wouldn't mind coming back and joining me again as we line up speakers and topics where we might be able to provide a bit of a teaser on what we're going to be covering more clearly, and to just keep people informed and up to date on progress on this forum. So I'm hoping that we'll be able to secure you both for future participation. And I certainly thank you very much for joining me today and sharing a high-level overview of what we're hoping to accomplish. And everyone watching this today, please use the information that we'll provide to contact the organizers and to take part in what will be a very fascinating one-day event, or a three-day event, sorry. Stewart, final words over to you, sir. What would you ask in terms of people looking to take part, both from a speaker perspective or even attending?
Well, overall, an event like this is all about building the community of practice. So if you have an involvement, if you're motivated, excited about the technology, come and join us, because we need to hear from you and to get you involved with the rest of the community.